The afternoon sun was beating down on the Los Angeles streets without mercy. It was one of those days where the heat seemed to rise from the pavement itself, making everything shimmer and blur in the distance. Traffic had come to a complete standstill on a quiet residential street, the kind of neighborhood where kids usually played on lawns and parents washed their cars on weekends. Keanu Reeves sat in his car, engine running, air conditioning, fighting a losing battle against the California heat. He'd been stuck here for nearly 20 minutes. There was construction up ahead, or maybe an accident. He couldn't quite see what was causing the delay. The radio played softly in the background, but he barely heard it. His mind was elsewhere, thinking about the script he'd just finished reading, wondering if it was the right project for his next film. After another few minutes of waiting, he decided to step out and stretch his legs. There was no point sitting in the car getting frustrated. That wasn't his style anyway. He'd learned long ago that some things in life you just can't control. And traffic was definitely one of them. As he stood beside his car, rolling his shoulders and breathing in the hot air, something caught his eye across the street. A small figure sat behind what looked like a makeshift table. Squinting against the sun, he could make out a lemonade stand. But this wasn't like the cheerful stands he'd seen in movies or passed by in nicer neighborhoods. There were no balloons, no bright poster board signs with happy faces drawn in marker, just a cardboard box serving as a table, a plastic pitcher, and a piece of paper with shaky handwriting that read, "Lemonade, $1." Behind the stand sat a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore a faded purple t-shirt that had seen better days. What struck him most was how alone she seemed. Most kids running lemonade stands had siblings with them, or friends, or at least a parent keeping watch from nearby. But this girl sat by herself, staring down at something in her lap. Keanu looked up and down the street. The traffic still wasn't moving. He had time, and honestly, the idea of a cold drink sounded pretty good right now, even if it was just lemonade from a kid's stand. More than that, something about the scene tugged at him. Maybe it was the girl's posture, the way her small shoulders seemed to carry weight too heavy for someone so young. He crossed the street, his sneakers quiet on the hot asphalt. As he got closer, he could see that the girl was counting coins. Her fingers moved carefully through the small pile of quarters, dimes, and nickels in a mason jar, her lips moving silently as she added up the total. She was so focused on this task that she didn't notice him approaching until his shadow fell across her makeshift table. She looked up suddenly, her eyes going wide. For a moment, recognition flashed across her face. Living in Los Angeles, even kids knew who certain people were. But unlike most children who might get excited or start giggling, this little girl just sat very still, watching him with an expression that seemed almost wary. "Hi there," Keanu said, keeping his voice gentle and friendly. He bent down slightly so he wouldn't tower over her. "Hot day to be selling lemonade." "I'd love to buy a cup if you're still open for business," the girl nodded slowly. "It's $1, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "That sounds like a fair price," he replied with a warm smile. "I'll take one, please." She set down the mason jar carefully and reached for the plastic pitcher. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured the pale yellow liquid into a small paper cup. Some of it splashed onto the cardboard table, but she didn't seem to notice. She was concentrating hard, her tongue poking out slightly from the corner of her mouth the way kids do when they're trying to do something perfectly. As she handed him the cup, Keanu noticed her eyes. They were puffy and red around the edges, like she'd been crying not too long ago. The redness was trying to hide itself, but it was there. He'd seen enough sadness in his own life to recognize it in others, even in someone so young. He took a sip of the lemonade. It was lukewarm, probably because she had no ice, and it was definitely on the sweeter side. She'd used too much sugar and not quite enough lemon, but he drank it like it was the best thing he'd tasted all day. "This is really good," he told her sincerely. "You're doing a great job here." A tiny smile flickered across her face but disappeared almost immediately. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu reached for his wallet and pulled out a $20 bill. He held it out to her. "Here you go. Keep the change." The girl's eyes went even wider. She stared at the bill like it was something foreign, something she couldn't quite process. Then she looked up at him and he saw conflict written all over her small face. Her hand reached out, then pulled back. Reached out again, hesitated. That's too much," she finally said, her voice cracking slightly. It's only $1. I know, Keanu said gently, still holding out the money. But your lemonade is worth it. And you're out here working hard in this heat. You deserve it. She bit her lower lip, looking down at her jar of coins, then back at the $20 bill. Her eyes started to glisten with tears that she was clearly trying very hard to hold back. Something was wrong here. This wasn't just a kid being humble or polite. There was something deeper going on. Something that made this money mean more than it should to a child selling lemonade on a summer afternoon. Keanu crouched down fully now, bringing himself to her eye level. The heat from the sidewalk seeped through his jeans, but he didn't care. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you okay?" That simple question, asked with genuine concern, seemed to crack something inside her. Her bottom lip started to quiver. She clutched the mason jar tighter, her knuckles turning white. A single tear rolled down her cheek, and she quickly wiped it away with the back of her hand. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice betrayed her. It came out broken and small. Keanu didn't push. He'd learned over the years that sometimes people needed space to open up, needed to feel safe before they could share what was really hurting them. So he just stayed there, crouched on the sidewalk, offering the $20 bill with one hand while his other hand rested gently on the edge of her cardboard table. "You know what?" he said after a moment. "I don't think you're fine. And that's okay. Nobody's fine all the time. I'm certainly not." She looked at him then, really looked at him, searching his face for something. Maybe she was trying to figure out if he was being honest, if this famous person talking to her actually cared, or if he was just being nice because that's what adults did sometimes. Behind them, a car horn honked. The traffic was finally starting to move. But Keanu didn't turn around. He stayed exactly where he was, waiting, patient. This moment felt important in a way he couldn't quite explain. This little girl with her lukewarm lemonade and her jar of coins and her red-rimmed eyes needed someone to see her, really see her. And right now he was that someone. The silence stretched between them for what felt like forever but was probably only a few seconds. Keanu stayed crouched there on the hot sidewalk, not moving, not pushing, just being present. The little girl kept staring at him with those tear-filled eyes, and he could see her struggling with something big, something a kid her age shouldn't have to carry. Finally, she took a shaky breath. "Why do you want to know?" she asked, her voice so quiet he had to lean in slightly to hear her. "Because I can tell something's hurting you," Keanu said simply, "and sometimes it helps to talk about it, but only if you want to. No pressure." She looked down at her jar of coins again, then back at him. Another tear slipped down her cheek, then another. And suddenly, like a dam breaking, the words started pouring out of her. "My mom is sick," she said, her voice cracking. "Really, really sick." Keanu felt his chest tighten. He nodded gently, encouraging her to continue if she wanted to. "She has cancer," the girl whispered, and saying the word out loud seemed to make it more real, more terrifying. Her whole body started to shake. "The doctors say she needs treatment. Lots of treatment. But it costs so much money. I heard her crying on the phone last week. She was talking to someone about bills and she said she doesn't know how she's going to pay for the next appointment." The words tumbled out faster now, like she'd been holding them in for so long that they couldn't be contained anymore. "She tries to hide it from me. She always smiles when I'm around and tells me everything's going to be okay, but I hear her at night when she thinks I'm asleep. I hear her crying in her room, and sometimes she gets really sick from the medicine they give her. She tries to pretend she's fine, but I can see how tired she is, how much pain she's in." Keanu felt a lump forming in his throat. He'd lost people he loved. He knew the weight of watching someone suffer, the helplessness that came with it. But this was a child going through it, a little girl who should be worrying about homework and playground games, not her mother's medical bills. "Is it just you and your mom?" he asked, gently. She nodded, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "My dad left when I was really little. I don't even remember him. It's always been just me and Mom. She works really hard. She has 2 jobs, but she had to quit one of them because she got too sick. Now she can barely work at all." The girl picked up the mason jar, holding it carefully like it contained something precious. "I've been coming out here every day after school for 2 weeks. Sometimes on weekends, too. I thought if I could make enough money, I could help her. I could pay for her medicine or her doctor visits or something." She shook the jar slightly and the coins clinked together. "I've made $43 so far. I know it's not a lot. I know it's not even close to enough. But it's something, right?" It has to count for something. Keanu had to look away for a moment. He stared up at the sky, blinking hard. This brave little girl sitting out here in the brutal heat day after day, selling lemonade for $1 a cup, trying to save her mother. The pure love and determination in that act was almost too much to bear. "What you're doing," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. The love you have for your mom, the way you're trying to help her. That's incredible. You're incredible." The girl's face crumpled. "But it's not enough," she sobbed. $43 isn't enough. The bills are thousands and thousands of dollars. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to help her? Keanu reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, and placed his hand gently on her small shoulder. "Listen to me," he said firmly but kindly. "What you're doing shows how much you love your mother, and that matters more than you can imagine. But you're right about one thing. This isn't a burden you should be carrying alone. No child should have to worry about paying their parents' medical bills." She looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "But who else is going to help? We don't have any family nearby. Mom's parents died before I was born, and she doesn't have any brothers or sisters. It's just us. It's always been just us." "Not anymore," Keanu said quietly. The words came out before he'd fully thought them through, but he meant them completely. "I want to help. Will you let me help?" The girl stared at him, confused. "But you don't even know us."
"Why would you want to help?"
"Because that's what people should do for each other," he said. "Because your mom is sick and you're scared, and I have the ability to do something about it. Because no little girl should have to sit on a sidewalk selling lemonade to save her mother's life." He sat down fully on the curb now, his legs stretched out in front of him. A few cars drove by slowly, people probably wondering why this man was sitting on the street talking to a child. But he didn't care what it looked like. This mattered more. "Here's what I need from you," he said. "I need your address and a phone number where I can reach you or your mom. I want to help, but I need to know how to find you again." The girl hesitated. "Mom always told me not to give our information to strangers." "Your mom is very smart," Keanu said, nodding approvingly. "That's good advice, but I'm going to give you my phone number too. And you can have your mom call me first if that makes you both feel safer. Deal?" She thought about this for a moment, then slowly nodded. She reached under her cardboard table and pulled out a small notebook and a pencil. The notebook had a unicorn on the cover, the kind you could buy at any dollar store. She carefully tore out a page and wrote down an address in shaky handwriting, along with a phone number. "That's our apartment," she said, handing him the paper. "And that's Mom's cell phone." Keanu took the paper and folded it carefully, putting it in his wallet. Then he pulled out a business card, one that had his agent's number on it. He crossed out the agent's name and wrote his personal cell phone number on the back. "This is my number," he said, handing it to her. "You or your mom can call me any time, day or night. I mean that." She took the card with both hands, staring at it like it was made of gold. "Now," Keanu said, pulling out his wallet again. He took out all the cash he had, counting it quickly. $600 in various bills. He folded them together and placed them gently in her mason jar, on top of her $43 in coins. "What are you doing?" she gasped, her eyes going huge. "I'm buying out your inventory for the day," he said with a small smile. "That means you're done working. I want you to pack up this stand, take this money, and go home to your mom. Spend the evening with her. Watch a movie together or just sit with her. That's more important than being out here in this heat." "But this is too much money," she protested, even as fresh tears started streaming down her face. "I can't take this." "Yes, you can," Keanu said gently. "And you will. Because this is just the beginning. I'm going to help you and your mom. I promise you that. But right now I want you to close up shop and go be with her." The girl threw her arms around his neck suddenly, hugging him tight. Her small body shook with sobs against his shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered over and over. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Keanu hugged her back carefully, his own eyes burning with tears. "You're going to be okay," he said softly. "Both of you are going to be okay. I'm going to make sure of it." When she finally pulled back, she was smiling through her tears. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her, and it transformed her whole face. She looked like a kid again, not like someone carrying the weight of the world. "What's your name?" Keanu asked, realizing he hadn't thought to ask until now. "Lily," she said. "My name is Lily." "Well, Lily," he said, standing up and brushing off his jeans. "You go home now, and tell your mom that I'll be calling her soon. We're going to figure this out together, okay?" She nodded, clutching the mason jar with the money to her chest. Okay. As Keanu walked back to his car, the traffic had cleared. He could have left 10 minutes ago, but he wouldn't have traded this moment for anything. His mind was already racing, thinking of phone calls to make, people to contact, ways to help. This little girl and her mother weren't going to face this alone anymore. He looked back once before getting in his car. Lily was carefully packing up her lemonade stand, that smile still on her face. And for the first time in what was probably a very long time, she looked like she had hope. Keanu sat in his car for a long moment after pulling away from Lily's lemonade stand. The piece of paper with her address and phone number sat on the passenger seat next to him, and he kept glancing at it like he was afraid it might disappear. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, and he realized his jaw was clenched. He forced himself to take a deep breath. The image of that little girl counting her coins, trying to save her mother with a lemonade stand, kept playing in his mind. $43. She'd worked for 2 weeks in the blazing heat and made $43. And she'd been so proud of it, so hopeful that somehow it would make a difference. The innocence of that hope broke something inside him. He didn't drive straight home. Instead, he pulled over into a parking lot a few blocks away and sat there with the engine running. He pulled out his phone and stared at it for a moment. Then he started making calls. The first call was to his friend David, a doctor who specialized in oncology. They'd met years ago at a charity event and had stayed in touch. David was one of those rare doctors who still believed medicine was about helping people, not just making money. "David, it's Keanu," he said when his friend answered. "I need your help with something. It's urgent." He explained the situation as clearly as he could. A single mother with cancer, struggling to afford treatment. A daughter trying to save her with a lemonade stand. As he talked, he could hear David making those small sounds doctors make when they're listening carefully, already thinking through solutions. "Send me her information," David said without hesitation. "Her name, date of birth if you can get it, what hospital she's being treated at. I'll make some calls. There are programs, grants, things that can help, and if those don't cover everything, we'll figure something else out." "Thank you," Keanu said, and he meant it with everything he had. "Don't thank me yet," David replied. "But we'll do what we can. Nobody should have to choose between treatment and keeping a roof over their head." The next call was harder. Keanu scrolled through his contacts, thinking about who else to reach out to. He had friends in the entertainment industry, people with money and connections. But he also knew how these things could go. If he told too many people, it might become a media circus. The last thing Lily and her mother needed was reporters camped outside their apartment. He decided to call Jennifer, a producer he'd worked with who ran a private foundation. She didn't advertise what she did, didn't post about it on social media. She just quietly helped people who needed it. "I need to tell you about someone," Keanu said when she picked up. And he told her about Lily. Jennifer listened in silence. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. "How much are we talking?" she finally asked. "I don't know yet," Keanu admitted. "I need to talk to the mother, find out what the bills look like, what treatment she needs. But probably a lot. Cancer treatment isn't cheap." "It never is," Jennifer said softly. "Okay, here's what I'm thinking. My foundation can set up a medical fund. We can cover treatment costs directly to the hospital, which sometimes helps with negotiating better rates. Send me the information when you have it. And Keanu, this is a good thing you're doing." He made 3 more calls that afternoon. One to a social worker he knew who could help navigate the complicated world of medical assistance programs. One to a lawyer friend who volunteered with a legal aid clinic, in case there were insurance issues or medical debt problems. And one to his financial advisor, letting him know he'd be making a significant personal donation and to prepare the paperwork. By the time he was done, the sun was starting to sink lower in the sky. He looked at the paper with Lily's phone number again. It was time to make the most important call of all. His hands were actually shaking a little as he dialed. That surprised him. He'd faced down action scenes, done his own stunts, performed in front of thousands of people. But calling this woman, this mother who was fighting for her life while trying to protect her daughter, that made him nervous. The phone rang 3 times. Then a woman's voice answered, weak and tired. "Hello?" "Hi," Keanu said, then cleared his throat. "My name is Keanu. I met your daughter Lily this afternoon at her lemonade stand. She gave me this number and said it was okay to call." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Oh my God," the woman said. "Lily told me what happened." I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe she'd imagined it or made it up because she was so upset. "You're really him? You're really calling?" "I'm really calling," Keanu said gently. "And I want you to know that everything Lily told me stays between us. I'm not calling as anyone famous. I'm calling as someone who wants to help. Is that okay?" He heard what might have been a sob quickly muffled. "I don't know what to say. I don't know what my daughter told you." "She told me you're sick," Keanu said carefully. "She told me she's scared. And she told me she's been selling lemonade to try to help with medical bills." "Oh, Lily," the woman whispered. And this time the sob came through clearly. "I didn't know she was doing that. I knew she'd been going out after school, but she said she was playing at the park. I never would have let her if I'd known. She's just a baby. She shouldn't be worrying about money or bills or any of this." "I know," Keanu said, "but she loves you. And she's trying to help the only way she knows how." The woman was crying openly now. "I've tried so hard to keep this from affecting her. I smile when she's around. I pretend I'm not scared. But she's smart. She hears things. She sees things. And now she's out there trying to save me with a lemonade stand. And I can't even afford the treatment that might actually save my life." Keanu felt that tightness in his chest again. "What if you didn't have to worry about the money?" he asked. "What if the treatment was taken care of?" Silence, then. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want to help," Keanu said. "I've already made some calls. I have a friend who's an oncologist, one of the best. He's willing to look at your case. Make sure you're getting the right treatment. I have another friend who runs a medical foundation. They can help cover costs, and I'm personally committed to making sure you get what you need." "I can't accept that," the woman said, but her voice wavered. "That's too much. You don't even know us." "I know enough," Keanu said firmly. "I know you're a mother trying to survive for your daughter. I know you're working yourself to exhaustion while you're sick. I know Lily is terrified of losing you, and I know I can help. So please let me help." More silence. He could hear her breathing, could almost feel her wrestling with pride and desperation and hope all at once. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why would you do this for strangers?" Keanu thought about that question. He thought about the people he'd lost in his own life. The way grief felt like carrying stones in your pockets, getting heavier with each step. The way the world kept spinning even when your personal world had stopped. The way small acts of kindness from strangers had sometimes been the only thing that kept him going. "Because I can," he said simply. "Because you need help and I have the ability to give it. Because Lily shouldn't have to lose her mother, and you shouldn't have to choose between treatment and keeping your lights on. That's not a choice anyone should have to make." He heard her break down completely then. Not the quiet crying she'd been doing, but deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. The kind of crying that happens when someone has been holding everything together for so long that they've forgotten what it feels like to let go. "I'm so scared," she whispered when she could speak again. "I'm so tired of being scared." "I know," Keanu said softly. "But you don't have to be scared alone anymore. I'm going to help you. We're going to figure this out together." They talked for another 20 minutes. She told him about her diagnosis, the type of cancer, what stage it was in. She told him about the treatment she'd had so far and the ones she still needed. She told him about the medical bills that were piling up, the insurance that didn't cover enough, the job she'd lost because she was too sick to work. Keanu listened to all of it, taking notes on his phone. With every detail, his determination grew stronger. This woman and her daughter weren't going to fall through the cracks, not if he could help it. "I'm going to come by tomorrow if that's okay," he said. "I'd like to meet you properly and talk about next steps. I'll bring David, my doctor friend. We'll look at your medical records together and make a plan." "Tomorrow," she repeated like she couldn't quite process that help was coming so soon. "Tomorrow," Keanu confirmed. "Is afternoon okay?" "Around 2? "Yes," she said, her voice still shaky but with something new in it now. Something that might have been hope. "Yes, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much." After they hung up, Keanu sat in his car as the last light faded from the sky. He felt exhausted but also energized. There was so much to do, so many calls still to make, so many pieces to put in place. But for the first time since meeting Lily at that lemonade stand, he felt like, maybe, just maybe, this story could have a happy ending. He started the car and finally headed home, already mentally preparing for the next day. The apartment building was older than Keanu expected. with faded paint and a set of concrete stairs that had cracks running through them like spider webs. He stood outside for a moment, holding a bag of groceries in one hand and a folder of paperwork in the other. David stood beside him, his medical bag slung over his shoulder, looking at the building with the practiced eye of someone who'd made house calls in every corner of the city. "Ready?" David asked. Keanu nodded, and they headed up to the second floor. The apartment number matched what Lily's mother had given him. He could hear a television playing somewhere down the hall and smell someone cooking dinner. Normal life happening all around them, while inside this one apartment a family was fighting for survival. He knocked gently on the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he heard footsteps, light and quick. The door opened a crack, and Lily's face appeared in the gap, her eyes going wide when she saw him. "You came," she breathed. "I told you I would," Keanu said with a smile. "Is your mom home?" Lily nodded and opened the door wider. "Mom," she called over her shoulder. "He's here. He's really here." The apartment was small but clean. The furniture looked worn but well cared for. There were drawings taped to the walls, obviously Lily's artwork. A small bookshelf overflowed with books, and Keanu noticed they were mostly from the library, the plastic covers and stamped dates visible on the spines. Everything about the space spoke of people doing their best with very little. Lily's mother appeared from what must have been the bedroom. She was younger than Keanu had imagined, maybe in her early 30s. She wore a soft sweater despite the warm weather, probably because the treatment made her cold. Her hair was thin, clearly affected by chemotherapy, pulled back with a simple clip, but her eyes were bright and alert, and when she saw Keanu standing in her doorway, she pressed a hand to her mouth. "I still can't believe this is real," she said, her voice shaking. "It's real," Keanu assured her, "and this is my friend David. He's the oncologist I told you about." David stepped forward with a warm, professional smile. "It's nice to meet you both. Thank you for letting us come by." They all sat down in the small living room. Lily squeezed onto the couch next to her mother, holding her hand tight. Keanu could see the fear still there in both of them, mixed now with hope but also with disbelief, like they were afraid this might all disappear if they believed in it too much. "I brought some things," Keanu said, setting the grocery bag on their coffee table. "Just some basics. I hope that's okay." Lily's mother looked into the bag and her eyes filled with tears. Fresh fruit, vegetables, some good cheese, bread from a nice bakery, and protein shakes that David had suggested for keeping her strength up during treatment. Simple things that most people took for granted, but that had probably become luxuries for them. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "I wanted to," Keanu said simply. David pulled out a notebook. "I've been looking at your medical records. Your oncologist sent them over with your permission. Can we talk about your treatment plan?" For the next hour, they sat together going over everything. David explained the treatment in ways that made sense, without the confusing medical jargon that doctors sometimes used. He talked about what was working and what could be improved. He had ideas about additional therapies that might help, about clinical trials that could give her access to newer treatments. "The good news is that you caught this early enough," David said. "Stage 3 is serious, but it's not the end of the road. Not even close. With proper treatment, your prognosis is actually quite good." Lily's mother started crying again. "My doctor told me that, but I couldn't afford to believe it." "What's the point of having a good prognosis if you can't afford the treatment that would save you?" "That's not going to be an issue anymore," David said gently. "I've talked to the hospital. We're setting up a medical fund through a foundation that will cover your treatment costs directly. You'll continue seeing your regular oncologist, but I'll consult on your case to make sure you're getting the best possible care." "I don't understand," she said, looking between David and Keanu. "Why would anyone do this for us?" Keanu leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Can I tell you something? When I met Lily yesterday selling lemonade to try to save your life, it reminded me that there's still so much good in this world. So much love. Your daughter sitting out there in the heat, counting her coins, hoping that somehow $43 would make a difference. That kind of love deserves to be met with more love. That's all this is. People helping people." Lily's mother reached over and pulled her daughter close, kissing the top of her head. "I've been trying so hard to be strong for her, to not let her see how scared I am, but she knew anyway. She always knows." "I'm not scared anymore, Mom," Lily said quietly. "Well, maybe a little, but not as much." They spent another hour talking about practical things. Keanu had arranged for a social worker to come by later in the week to help with paperwork and connect them with additional resources. There was a support group for single mothers dealing with cancer that met every Tuesday evening. A local organization that provided free childcare for kids whose parents were in treatment, meal delivery services for days when Lily's mother was too sick to cook. There's a whole network of help out there, David explained. A lot of people just don't know it exists or don't know how to access it. That's what we're going to help you with. But beyond the practical help, something else was happening in that small apartment. They were talking like friends. Lily showed Keanu her drawings, explaining each one in detail. She had talent, real talent. Her pictures showed imagination and care. There was one of a superhero that looked a little bit like her mother, flying through the sky with a cape. That's Supermom, Lily explained proudly. She can do anything. Keanu looked at the real mother sitting on the couch, thin and tired and fighting for her life, and he thought that Lily had gotten it exactly right. She was a superhero, maybe not the kind that flew through the sky, but the kind that got up every morning despite the pain and fear, that worked multiple jobs while sick, that smiled for her daughter even when she wanted to cry. That was real strength. As the afternoon stretched into evening, Keanu noticed how Lily's mother seemed to relax little by little. The tension in her shoulders eased. She laughed at something David said, a real laugh that lit up her whole face. For just a moment, she looked like someone who wasn't carrying the weight of the world. I need to be honest with you about something, Keanu said, as they were getting ready to leave. This situation, what happened with Lily's lemonade stand, it touched me. And I know that when I'm involved in something, sometimes it attracts attention, media attention. I'm going to do everything I can to keep this private, to protect your family's privacy. But I wanted you to know that it's a possibility. Lily's mother nodded slowly. I understand. And honestly, if that's the price for having my daughter's mother survive, I'll deal with it. Hopefully it won't come to that, Keanu said. But I wanted you to know. As they stood at the door saying goodbye, Lily suddenly hugged Keanu again, just like she had at the lemonade stand. Thank you for saving my mom, she whispered. Your mom is saving herself, Keanu said, hugging her back. She's the strongest person I've met in a long time. I'm just helping her fight. Walking back down those cracked concrete stairs, David glanced at Keanu. You know word is going to get out eventually, right? Someone's going to see you coming and going. Someone always does. I know, Keanu said. But maybe that's not the worst thing. If the story gets out, maybe it'll inspire other people to help others. Maybe someone else will see someone struggling and decide to do something about it instead of just walking by. You really believe that? David asked. I have to, Keanu said. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? Later that night, as Keanu sat in his own home, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Lily's mother. Just 3 words, we have hope. He stared at those 3 words for a long time. 3 simple words that meant everything. Hope was powerful. Hope was what kept people fighting when everything seemed impossible. Hope was what made a little girl set up a lemonade stand. Hope was what made a mother keep going through painful treatments. And hope was what made strangers reach out to help each other. He texted back, "That's just the beginning." And he meant it. This wasn't just about paying for medical treatment. It was about showing this family that they weren't alone, that the world could be kind, that people cared. It was about giving Lily the chance to be a kid again, instead of a little girl trying to save her mother 1 cup of lemonade at a time. Over the next few days, the plan started coming together. The medical fund was established. David had consulted with the oncologist and they'd adjusted the treatment plan. A caregiver was scheduled to come by 3 times a week to help with daily tasks. Lily was enrolled in an after-school program where she could just be a kid, play with friends, do art projects without worrying about her mother. But the most important thing, the thing that money couldn't really buy, was already happening. A family that had been drowning was learning to breathe again. A little girl was sleeping through the night without nightmares. A mother was allowing herself to believe she might actually survive this. And somewhere in all of that, a simple act of kindness at a lemonade stand had turned into something bigger than anyone could have imagined. 6 months later, Keanu pulled up to the same apartment building, but this time everything felt different. The sun was shining, not with the brutal heat of that summer afternoon when he'd first met Lily, but with the gentle warmth of early spring. He'd been here dozens of times since that first visit, and each time he noticed small changes. Someone had planted flowers in the courtyard. The cracks in the stairs had been repaired. The building itself seemed brighter somehow, though maybe that was just his perception. He didn't come alone this time. His car was full of bags and boxes, colorful decorations and party supplies. Today was special. Today was Lily's 8th birthday, and he'd promised her a celebration she'd never forget. Before he could even get out of the car, the apartment door flew open, and Lily came racing down the stairs. But this Lily was different from the sad, scared little girl he'd met at that lemonade stand. This Lily had color in her cheeks and light in her eyes. Her hair bounced as she ran, pulled back in 2 braids tied with bright ribbons. She wore a new dress, pink with little flowers on it, and she was laughing. "You're here. You're here!" she shouted, throwing herself at him the moment his feet hit the ground. Keanu caught her and spun her around, her laughter ringing out across the parking lot. "Happy birthday, kiddo," he said, setting her down and ruffling her hair. "Are you ready for your party?" "I can't believe you're really doing this," Lily said, bouncing on her toes. "A real birthday party? With my friends from school and everything?" "Of course I am," Keanu said. "I promised, didn't I?" Lily's mother appeared at the top of the stairs, and Keanu had to stop himself from staring. The change in her was remarkable. Her hair had grown back, still short but healthy and full. The gray pallor that had haunted her face was gone, replaced with actual color. She'd gained weight, the kind of healthy weight that comes from eating regular meals and not being consumed by sickness. She wore jeans and a comfortable sweater, and she was smiling. "You didn't have to do all this," she called down, but her smile said she was grateful anyway. "Yes, I did," Keanu called back. "Now come help me carry all this stuff before I drop something." The next hour was a blur of activity. They transformed the small community park next to the apartment building into a birthday wonderland. Streamers and balloons in every color imaginable. Tables set up with food, real food from a good caterer, not just chips and soda. A bounce house that Keanu had rented was being inflated in the corner, and Lily kept running over to check its progress every few minutes. "I've never had a bounce house before," she kept saying, like she couldn't quite believe it was real. "Well, today you do," Keanu said. "And you better enjoy it because I plan to get in there and bounce with you later." Lily giggled at the thought of this grown man bouncing around with the kids. "You promise?" "I promise." The guests started arriving around 2 in the afternoon. Kids from Lily's school, some she knew well and some she was just getting to know. For months, Lily had been withdrawn at school, too worried about her mother to make friends. But lately, she'd been opening up, joining activities, being a kid again. Some of these children were new friends, relationships that were just beginning to bloom. One little boy arrived with his parents, carrying a wrapped present. He handed it to Lily shyly. "I'm glad you came back to art club," he said. "Your drawings are really cool," Lily beamed. "Thanks. Do you want to see the bounce house?" And just like that, they ran off together, all awkwardness forgotten in the way that only kids can manage. Keanu stood back, watching it all unfold. Parents he didn't know chatted with Lily's mother, telling her how glad they were to see her looking so well. The kids shrieked and played, their voices carrying on the spring breeze. This was what normal looked like. This was what life was supposed to be. David showed up halfway through the party carrying an absurdly large stuffed unicorn. "I might have gone overboard," he admitted when Lily's mother raised an eyebrow at him. "You definitely went overboard," she laughed. "But she's going to love it." When Lily saw the unicorn, she screamed with delight and hugged it so tight that David joked she might suffocate it. The unicorn was bigger than she was, and watching her try to carry it around made everyone laugh. As the party went on, Keanu found himself sitting on a bench next to Lily's mother, both of them watching the chaos of happy children playing. "I keep waiting to wake up," she said quietly. "I keep thinking this is all a dream and I'm going to open my eyes and be back in that place where I was 6 months ago. Scared and sick and alone. It's not a dream," Keanu said. "This is real. You fought for this. You earned this," she shook her head. "I didn't fight alone. If you hadn't stopped at that lemonade stand, if you hadn't cared enough to help, I don't know where we'd be right now. Probably not here, probably not anywhere good. But I did stop," Keanu said. "And you did fight. And look where you are now." She was quiet for a moment, watching Lily chase another kid around the bounce house. "The doctors say I'm in remission." Did I tell you that? You did, Keanu said with a smile. 3 weeks ago. Best news I'd heard in months. I still have to go for regular checkups. It could come back. That's always a possibility. But you're here now, Keanu said firmly. You're healthy now. Lily has her mother. That's what matters, she wiped at her eyes. I cry so much easier now than I used to. Happy tears mostly. Is that weird? Not even a little bit, Keanu assured her. A woman approached them, someone Keanu didn't recognize. She had a kind face and was carrying a small gift bag. Hi, she said to Lily's mother. We haven't officially met. I'm Rachel. My son Tommy is in Lily's class. Oh, Tommy. Lily's mother stood up to shake her hand. Lily talks about him all the time. Rachel smiled, but then her expression turned more serious. I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I heard about what you went through. What you're still going through. And I just wanted to say how brave I think you are, and how lucky Lily is to have a mother who fights so hard for her. Lily's mother's eyes filled with tears again. Thank you. That means more than you know. Actually, Rachel continued, pulling out her phone, I run a support network for families dealing with medical crises. If you're interested, we meet twice a month. It's just a group of people who understand what it's like. We share resources, support each other. I thought maybe you'd like to join us. I'd love that, Lily's mother said, taking the card Rachel offered. After Rachel walked away, Lily's mother turned to Keanu with wonder in her eyes. That just happened. She just invited me to something. Like I'm a regular person living a regular life. You are a regular person living a regular life, Keanu said. That's exactly what you are. The party continued for hours. They sang happy birthday, and Lily blew out the candles on a huge cake decorated with unicorns and rainbows. She opened presents, each one making her eyes light up with joy. The bounce house was a massive hit, and true to his word, Keanu spent 20 minutes in there bouncing with the kids, making them laugh as he pretended to fall down or bounce into the walls. As the sun started to set and parents began collecting their tired, happy children, Lily came over to where Keanu was helping clean up. She was still clutching the giant unicorn David had given her. This was the best day of my whole life, she said seriously. I'm glad, Keanu said, crouching down to her level. You deserve the best days. Can I tell you something? Lily asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Always. Remember when you first met me? At my lemonade stand? I remember, Keanu said softly. I was so scared that day, Lily said. I thought my mom was going to die. I thought I was going to lose her and be all alone. And then you stopped and you talked to me and you helped us and everything changed. She threw her arms around his neck, squeezing tight. You saved us, she whispered. You saved my mom and you saved me too. Keanu hugged her back, feeling his own eyes get wet. You saved yourself, Lily. You and your mom both did. I just helped a little bit along the way. But you did help, Lily insisted. And I'm never going to forget that. Never, ever. As the last guests left and they finished cleaning up, Keanu helped carry decorations back to the apartment. Lily's mother made tea and they sat in the small living room that now felt so familiar to him. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from her big day, the giant unicorn clutched in her arms. You know something? Lily's mother said quietly. When this all started, when I first got sick, I was so angry. I kept asking why me, why us? We'd already been through so much, losing Lily's father, struggling to make ends meet. Cancer felt like the universe piling on, like we'd been forgotten. She looked over at her sleeping daughter. But then Lily set up that lemonade stand and you stopped and all of this happened. And I realized we hadn't been forgotten at all. We'd been seen. We'd been found. Does that make sense? Perfect sense, Keanu said. There's something I've been thinking about, she continued. When Lily is older, when she asks me what saved my life, I'm not going to tell her it was the medicine or the treatments, even though those things mattered. I'm going to tell her it was love. Her love for me, pushing her to set up that stand. Your love for humanity, making you stop and care about a stranger. The love of everyone who helped us along the way. That's what really saved me. Love did. Keanu didn't trust himself to speak for a moment. Finally he managed, I think you might be right. Later, as he drove home through the darkening streets, Keanu thought about everything that had happened since that sweltering afternoon when traffic had stopped him on a residential street. How one moment, one decision to step out of his car and cross the street had changed everything for two people, had probably saved 2 lives. His phone buzzed with a text message. It was a photo from Lily's mother. Lily asleep in her bed, still in her party dress, the unicorn beside her, a smile on her face even in sleep. The caption read, "Thank you for giving us our life back." Keanu saved the photo. He'd look at it on hard days when the world felt heavy. He'd remember that kindness mattered. That stopping mattered. That paying attention to the small moments, the quiet struggles, the lemonade stands operated by little girls trying to save their mothers, that all of it mattered more than anything. 1 cup of lemonade had changed everything, and somehow that felt exactly right.